President Joe Biden is meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in California tonight as tensions grow in multiple regions around the globe. It is certainly a high-stakes meeting that is months in the making. President Biden meeting with the leader of a government he often describes as a rising threat to U.S. economic interests at home and to international stability. All this while in Washington, the House is already on Thanksgiving break after passing a funding bill to keep the government open. Now it heads to the Senate with leadership promising a vote ASAP. We'll head to the Hill in a moment, but we begin tonight with CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. Weijia, we really appreciate you being here. Let's begin by listening to President Biden in his remarks on today's meeting.
I value our conversation because I think it's paramount that you and I understand each other clearly, leader to leader, with no misconceptions or miscommunication. We have to ensure that competition does not veer into conflict, and we also have to manage it responsibly.
And Weijia, let's also hear from the Chinese leader.
For two large countries like China and the United States, turning their back on each other is not an option. It is unrealistic for one side to remodel the other, and conflict and confrontation has unbearable consequences for both sides.
You've been reporting on all of this. What does it mean based on your conversations with diplomats and White House officials?
Well, Robert, the most important outcome of this meeting for President Biden is going to be if the two leaders reestablish communication, especially with regard to the U.S. and Chinese military. And as we heard from both of these leaders, they actually agreed that they have to find a way to coexist, to compete with one another, but they do not want to cross over a line into conflict or confrontation. And there has been escalation of that we have been observing in the past year. These two leaders have not spoken, even on the phone, in the past year because the relationship has grown so rocky. And we know that President Biden, he is a man who craves FaceTime. He wants to be in front of the people who he is trying to sway, who he's trying to hash out a deal with. And that's why this meeting is so important, not to mention the fact, Robert, that every decision that has to do with China, in China, has to go through Xi Jinping. And so there are certain things that must be decided, that can only be decided if these two men sat together face to face, which is what they've been doing now for well over 2 hours. And so even getting to this point required so much intense diplomacy from members of the president's cabinet to negotiate this summit that we're watching unfold right now.
Weijia, what are the expectations about what's next?
Well, we do expect there to be some sort of a nod that they will resume communications, especially with the military. And you might remember that when then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi traveled to Taiwan in August of 2022, it enraged Beijing. And that's when Chinese officials in the military essentially went dark. And we saw that on full display when the U.S. shot down a spy balloon this year in February. And Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin tried to get his counterpart on the phone, and there was no answer. So when you're talking about increased military activity in the South China Sea amid fears that China could invade Taiwan and how the U.S. would play a role in that, communication is key. So we expect that. We also think there will be an announcement that these two nations have found a way to crack down on fentanyl. Essentially, sources say that the way to do that is by targeting exports from China that are ingredients that make their way to the southern border, ingredients made to use fentanyl and then flood the United States, which, of course, is an issue that is so important to many Americans.
Weijia Jiang, we always appreciate your reporting. Thank you.